gross domestic product numbers this morning. ABC's Jim Ryan takes a look.
The Commerce Department's Bureau of Economic Analysis says the 2.6% surge in gross domestic product reflects increases in exports, consumer spending, and investment. But after 2 quarters of declines in the GDP, analysts are more than a little suspicious about such a dramatic increase. They fear that the latest number is less of a trend and more of a one-off.
Slightly more Americans applied for unemployment benefits last week, with the Labor Department remaining one of the healthiest parts of the economy right now. The election is just 12 days away. A lot of voters have said the economy and inflation, their number one issues. A few months ago, it was believed abortion would be the top thing on the minds of voters. In Georgia, Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker, who has spoken out against abortion, is accused of paying for another woman's abortion several years ago. He denies it. ABC's Rachel Scott.
Walker is locked in a tight race with Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock. In a statement, his campaign says Walker has a problem with taking responsibility for his actions. But even with all this controversy, this race remains a dead heat.
Continued warnings from Russia, real or not, that Ukraine is poised to use a dirty bomb. ABC's Tom Sophie Burridge is in Kyiv.
The White House saying this is a typical play by the Kremlin. They create a pretext by forewarning that Ukraine is about to do something, which the Russians then carry out themselves. U.S. officials warning Moscow there would be consequences. Meanwhile, Putin personally overseeing Russia's first large-scale nuclear drills since its invasion of Ukraine, simulating a major nuclear attack.
Prince Harry's memoir, we now know, will be released on January 10th. Publisher Penguin Random House promising a book filled with insight, self-examination, and unflinching honesty. You're listening to ABC News.
Did you know there's a conservative advocacy and benefits organization with over 2 million members and counting? It's AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Here are 3 reasons why you should consider joining AMAC right now. First, AMAC saves you money from discounts on travel and lodging, cell phones and plans, access to insurance products, and more. Joining AMAC is a powerful tool against inflation. Second, with a bi-monthly magazine, daily web content, podcasts with America's thought leaders, and an app that delivers insightful coverage of the issues that matter most. AMAC is a trusted source of information. And third, the reason why people say it's their favorite is that AMAC fights for your conservative values on Capitol Hill. With more than 2 million members, AMAC is a voice that cannot be ignored, working tirelessly to preserve the freedom secured by our Constitution. Go to amac.us/liberty and join today. That's amac.us/liberty. amac.us/liberty.
More children are headed into hospitals across the country with respiratory disease. Pediatric hospitals in 9 states at or above 80% capacity. Utah mom Sarah Miller says her baby is one of them.
In probably the course of 2 hours, she'd gone from being our normal baby to she was on a respirator.
Doctors worried about a triple threat from the flu, COVID, and RSV. Another railroad union now saying no to a contract deal with freight companies, again raising the possibility of a crippling rail strike. ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
The latest union to reject a deal represents some thousands of rail workers, and at issue seems to be paid time off. Now, terms of a deal to avoid a shutdown were reached back in September, but with rank-and-file union members overwhelmingly voting it down now, it is back to the bargaining table. Big picture, this means workers could strike and hit the picket line as early as November 19th. And make no mistake about it, this would be a big blow to the Biden administration.
If there is no new deal, workers could strike as soon as next month. Elon Musk closing in on a deal to buy Twitter. Wall Street Journal says banks backing it have begun to transfer billions of dollars for the sale. General Motors now says it is beating its own deadline to power all of its American facilities with renewable energy. The company originally targeted 2050, now says it has the deals in place to go completely renewable power by 2025. GM says speeding up the plans will cut millions of tons of emissions. This is ABC News.
Finding the right Medicare plan? Oof, no easy feat. Kind of like those dances my granddaughter loves making me do. But then I found Walgreens FindRx coverage. Lets you compare plans online, over the phone, or in person. Made Medicare shopping so easy. Plus, I found plans with low-cost copays. I can get down with that. When you need to talk Medicare, Walgreens is here. Start shopping today at walgreens.com/Medicare.
I'm Sherry Preston, ABC.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's going to be a beautiful one for us today with cool temperatures, but overall still pretty comfortable. will be in the mid to upper 60s this afternoon with mostly sunny skies. Get out and enjoy it. It's going to be actually a really nice afternoon. Mostly clear and cold, though, into tonight with temperatures falling into the low to mid 40s by Friday morning. Then we'll see increasing clouds on Friday with even cooler temperatures only in the low to mid 60s heading into the weekend. I'm meteorologist Anthony Baglione in the Weather Center.
The sun is peeking out. It's shining brightly out there this morning, and it's 48 degrees currently here at WCAB on this tremendous Thursday morning, and it's 9:05.
It's time now for My Great America with Jim and Butch, a conversation about positive things about this great country. And now here are Jim and Butch.
Well, good morning, Butch.
Good morning, Jim. Now listen, I've been listening to you cough.
Yes.
Are you okay?
I am fine and dandy.
You're fine and dandy.
Fine and dandy, yeah.
And you're taking those lozenges that I gave you, right?
Yeah, doing great till just a moment ago.
Okay.
Took a coughing spell. It's over with now, so I'm good.
You know what? You remind me, Jim, of, I mentioned this before. There was a guy in Northern Virginia. Okay, it's not because he was old that you remind me of him. We're all getting older. But this guy was out in the field, and he was probably in his early 80s. I may have told this story before. He gashed his hand badly, and he just stitched it up himself and went back to work. He's got a needle, got some thread. And I don't have time to go to did it. And I remember looking at that, saying to myself, that's part of what makes America great.
Sure it is.
Right there.
Sure it is.
Right there. I mean, there were urgent cares when Lewis and Clark were going across America. Right?
Now we go to the hospital for the least little thing.
I know, and we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. And I'm grateful for my grandmother, Moo, who died at 99. Died at 99 with an incredible legacy. She and her husband, my pop-up, 11 children. I'm the oldest. I've said this before. 40 grandchildren. I think it's 127 great-grandchildren and now 32 great-greats. I mean, that came from an 18-year-old that married a guy, George Martin, my grandfather. And I've said this story before. She told him, George, I don't really love you, but I respect you, and I can learn to love you. Well, 11 children and that whole big progeny later, that's what makes America great.
That's great.
Stuff like that makes America great. I mean, he was told, my grandfather was told, don't get up on the roof. He was 79 years old. Don't get up on the roof. Try to fix the slate roof. He was not wise. He didn't listen. He got up on the roof, fell off, broke 3 ribs, and within 2 weeks, he was back up on the roof again. That was my great. So I've got a lot of generational things I need deliverance from. When people say, you need to slow down, Butch, yeah, I need to hear God's voice and only do his will. This fruit doesn't fall too far from that big tree.
Yeah. We have a lot of folks here in Rutherford County that belong to the roofers, the latest roofers.
Yeah.
Some of them are up in age.
Yeah.
And Billy Honeycutt, who is up in his 80s,
Yeah.
climbs up on roofs now, on ladders, hammers those.
He does?
Yeah. I think he still does that. He did it for just a few weeks ago.
Okay, well, that's a good lead line for a story. Billy Honeycutt on a roof.
Yes. But, they don't care to expose themselves to whatever danger might happen if they should happen to fall off. But I've seen pictures of them, and they did a TV show about them too.
Right.
But I think it's great.
Well, it's like I love people that God has gifted with their hands and with skills. Mm-hmm. People love people with skills, Jim.
Yes.
And the skills God gave me are a different kind. But so my plumber friend James, he's been around here a long time. My plumber friend, James, I remember one time he called me and he said, you want to come help me? And so we're out there in the rain trying to figure out a water break at a residential home. And I'm looking at him, the rain's coming down. He said, you got to get in the hole. You got to dig a hole. Got to get in that hole. And I remember thinking to myself, and this is a great example of how you can go to your mind. I remember thinking to myself, it's raining and we're looking for a water break. How are we going to know the difference between the rain coming down and the floods coming up, like we used to sing in my Baptist Sunday school? But God, God helps them know where those things are. And I love getting dirty when it's doing God's work.
And there are folks that we don't ever give enough recognition to are those folks who do that kind of thing, call out in the middle of the night to help somebody's plumbing problem.
Plumbers,
electricians,
locksmiths.
Oh yes.
You know, all these folks. You know, EMTs, firemen, policemen. We take for granted so much of the hydraulic fluid of our lives. It just happens around us. We think. That's why we got to pray for people and encourage them, Jim.
Everybody can't be lawyers and doctors and CEOs of companies. They're folks that have to get out on the hard lines and do the tough jobs and climb up those poles and get on the roofs and dig in the dirt and put down pipelines, those kind of things. Those people make America go around.
Exactly. And so do the people, Jim. So do the people who get up early in the morning, even as they get older, so that they can tell people, hey, folks, it's a great getting up morning. Like my friend Jim Bishop. Now, listen, I don't want your dog Misty to be lost in all of the pomp and circumstance of your transitions, okay?
Okay.
Misty has been a faithful friend, right?
Yes, she has.
Give me 3 reasons why Misty is just so important to you.
Misty is a faithful friend because when I come home at night, she always meets me at the door with a tail wagging, wants me to pet her, rub her ears.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And if, of course, Faye takes priority over me. When we're both there, she's Faye's buddy. But when Faye's not there, I'm her buddy. And she'll come jump up in the chair beside of me.
That's sweet.
Snuggles a little bit. And she waits for me to take her out.
That's sweet.
And the thing we do on the weekends, on Saturdays, when we have to haul the garbage to the dump, she goes with me.
So she's like the assistant dump person.
Right.
Yeah, does she know when you're getting ready to do that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, she does?
Yeah.
And she's ready?
She starts, she knows it's time to go.
Okay.
And so she rides in the truck with me.
She does.
I can't get her to, I love to see dogs with their head out the side.
Oh, yeah.
But she sits in the...
She's diligent.
She looks out the windshield.
She wants to make sure you're driving well.
That's right. And when we get back to the house, I've got a long driveway.
Yeah.
We get back to the house, I stop and let her out at the mailbox. I said, run. And she lines out running. She starts pushing me out. When we get close to the house, she knows what's coming. She knows she's going to get to run from the mailbox to the house. So she starts nudging me, making sure I get the door open and get out of the way. So
that is so sweet. I mean, when people talk about pets or just pets, they're not. They're part of the family.
They absolutely are.
So in the spirit of that, Jim, I wanted to make sure that Misty was not forgotten. You had an incredible event there at the Spindale House up on the 2nd floor. I'm still getting feedback from people. The food was unbelievable. Charles, Connie, Matilda, so many others, Hetty, and others provided that incredible platform for the county to come and tell you how much they love you. And it's going to keep going on, of course, for the future. But I was thinking to myself, I had a little bit of a bruised conscience. Where's Misty in all of this? Misty doesn't know there are these transitions taking place. So I got these beef-hide kebabs, oven-baked dog treats. For Misty.
I'll tell Misty they're from you.
All right. Well, actually, it's just representing all the people that love you, Jim, and love your sweet puppy, love Faye, and so those are for you. All right. Now we're gonna do a call in real quickly. You reported on this story, I think yesterday.
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny. Whenever I go to the Exxon up there at the top of the hill, off Railroad Avenue, and I buy 12 papers, they'll say, "Are you in it?" It's funny, and I don't care about that, but I was quoted in the article, but it's for FreightWorks and different people that we're going to give them to. But of course, if you haven't heard, the county, this is incredibly important, did land this site for a Love's Travel Stop. It's FreightWorks. It's going to be a multi-use development site, something I'm giving some time and attention to. Josh Farmer, the founder and president of FreightWorks, has some tremendous ideas, but we need your help. And Jim, we're going to ask people to help right now. In the development of this property, right there at 74 and 221, both sides of the road, right off Birch Hutchins Road, if you were to pick one restaurant that you could have there, and there are no promises, but we're going to be interacting with a lot of different people. If you could pick one restaurant at that 74 and 221 intersection, what would you pick?
You know, all the time I hear people say, I wish we had this restaurant. I wish we had this restaurant. I wish we had this restaurant.
This is an opportunity for you to participate in a FreightWorks endorsed call-in right now. So what number should they call?
Call 287-3356, 287-3356, and let us know what your favorite restaurant would be that you'd like to see located there.
Right, 287-3356, 3356. The question is this: if you could have a restaurant there at 74 and 221, what would it be? We want to get as many calls as possible, so don't wait. We're not going to do it the whole
I hear
program.
the phone ringing out there. It's not all nines. It's 287-3356.
287-3356.
People who watch television will understand what that little side joke was. All nines, call all nines when you have an accident and bump up, call that attorney. All nines. But it's not all nines. It's 287-3356.
287-3356. What restaurant would you like to see at the intersection of 74 and 221? You know, Jim, I've been thinking a lot about the elections coming up. Of course, early voting started. We've done that. A lot of folks are out there, getting a lot of traffic. We understand. The thing that I think is so important for people to remember is you've got to vote based on your convictions. Your convictions. You know, when people ask me the question, does your whole church vote the same way? Because there's a misnomer that somehow my pastor, somebody gets up and says, here's who you're going to vote for. It doesn't work that way at all. We're all prompted to ask the question, who does God want us to vote for? And we vote based on convictions and our values, and the mirror that we ought to put up against any candidate is God's word. And, you know, I was thinking about this whole issue of abortion. And there are a lot of people, a growing number of people in the evangelical community that are saying, you know what, it's an important issue. Maybe it's not the most important issue, but I was going back to the fact that you can't marginalize life. You can't marginalize life. You can't say it's kind of important or sort of important. It's fundamentally important. And so, Jim, I was actually reading something that Pope John Paul II, he was a great pope, by the way. He addressed a crowd of over 375,000 people from 70 different countries in a mass celebrated at Cherry Creek State Park. I know where that is, in Colorado. I actually lived in Colorado when this happened, as part of the World Youth Day on August 15th, 1993. Listen to what he said. A culture of death seeks to impose itself on our desire to live and live to the full. In our own century, as at no other time in history, the culture of death has assumed a social and institutional form of legality to justify the most horrible crimes against humanity: genocide, final solutions, ethnic cleansings, massive taking of lives of human beings even before they were born or before they reached the natural point of death. In much of contemporary thinking, any reference to a law guaranteed by the Creator is absent. There remains only each individual's choice of this or that objective as convenient or useful in a given set of circumstances. No longer is anything considered intrinsically good and universally binding. The family especially is under attack, and the sacred character of human life is denied. Naturally, the weakest members of society are the most at risk: the unborn, children, the sick, the handicapped, the old, the poor, the unemployed, the immigrant, and refugee. You must feel the full urgency of the task. Woe to you if you do not succeed in defending life. The church needs you and your energies, your enthusiasm, your youthful ideas in order to make the gospel of life penetrate the fabric of American society, transforming people's hearts and the structures of society in order to create a civilization of true justice and God's love. That was Pope John Paul II.
Oh, he's absolutely right.
It's just on the mark. And of course, you know, there's a different pope now, and it's just, you know, all over the place. And
different philosophy.
And whatever your feelings are about Catholicism, and I obviously was becoming a Franciscan Catholic priest. I was a Democrat. Becoming a Franciscan Catholic priest, God rescued me out of both those things. But you know what? I'm grateful that as somebody who is looked to as the titular head for billions of people around the world, that his rhetoric and his words are so clear on that issue.
Yes.
You can't say, well, I like everything about that person, and you know what, their abortion stance I'll just not consider. You can't do that. For me, it's a non-starter.
Me too. Yes, it's got to be a non-starter. Let me interrupt you just a second. I may go back to this Love's Travel stop to clarify something. There definitely is going to be a restaurant there. right?
Well, there's
And
going to be
we're trying
one in the Loves, but we're
Right.
going to develop other restaurants. So I've had people say, I want a Cracker Barrel,
Yeah.
or I want a Applebee's, or I want a whatever.
I want to make sure folks understand, if you had your druthers, what would you like to see in that facility, that general area? So I want to make sure that
Yes. And what's that number again they can call?
287-3356, 287-3356. If you had your choice to put a restaurant somewhere out there near that facility, what would it be?
287-3356, because what's going to happen is the cement literally isn't hard, and that there's a lot of property there. So there are going to be a number of different service-oriented things, retail, multi-use, might be housing. You know, we're looking at all of that. But right now we're really interested to hear if you could pick a restaurant that you'd have there. Now, Love's will have some kind of a churches or a fast food something in the facility. I'm thinking more in terms of a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant that maybe we don't have that you'd like to see here. 287-3356. Jim, let me ask you this. This is the time of year where the weather starts to change. You think it's going to snow?
I think it's going to snow.
You think we're going to get snow this year?
I do.
You do? What makes you feel that?
Because you were laughing, but the woolly worm was very dark this year up in West Jefferson. Woolly worm, they
Okay, folks, you heard it here first. Jim Bishop just said that you could predict the weather based on the
color of the woolly worm.
The color of the woolly worm. I know there are many things I've never heard before. That just went into my museum of memories.
I was really kidding, but they do have this festival up there, and
they have a woolly worm festival.
Woolly worm festival, and they look at that, see how it's kind of like when the
Puxatawny.
Phil sees a shadow.
Yeah.
This woolly worm, based on how dark he is, it tells you how cold the winter's going to be.
When my college friends call me, or my graduate school friends call me, and they say, "What happened to you, Butch? What happened to you?" Because they some of them find our program, and they go, "It seems like you really enjoyed talking to that guy, Jim." I said, "I do. I mean, he's like knowledgeable about everything going on in the county here." But you know what? Somewhere between the Butch Maltby immersion into the Liver Mush Festival and the Woolly Worm Festival, those are kind of, I'm not being loose or foolish, those are representative of the transformation of my life.
Yes. You missed the conversation this morning I had about Spam.
I heard the conversation about Spam.
Several recipes called in about how to cook Spam, so we're right.
Yeah, you know what? I love Spam, and you know what? I'm going to confess this too. I like potted meat.
I do too.
You do?
I haven't had it in a long time. But
you haven't?
Nope.
Okay, you know what we need to do sometime? We don't need to do anything. We'll do it if God tells us to do it. But you know what would be interesting? We got a microwave in there. Yes. I'll bring in some potted meat, get a jar of Duke's mayonnaise. We'll cook that up, eat some of it here, and encourage people, eat healthy in the morning.
I had a friend get me some Vienna sausage.
I love Vienna sausages. You know what else Vienna sausages are great for?
What?
Catfish fishing.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. You put it on that hook. You throw it down there. It's got that skank down in the water. It just emanates all those oils. Those catfish love it.
The sardines is a favorite of mine, too.
I love sardines, Jim. Now, do you like them? Do you like them in water? Do you like them in oil? Do you like them with mustard? Do you like them with Cajun sauce? How do you like your
all
sardines?
All of the above except the Cajun sauce. I like it in oil sometimes. Sometimes it's in water. And sometimes in the mustard.
Any given time, you can go to the my refrigerator and open up the drawer on the right, and I keep mine cold.
Yeah,
I keep them cold in the refrigerator. You'll find 3 or 4 cans of sardines. I love sardines. You know, my grandmother loved sardines and was convinced they were good for your brain function.
Really?
Yeah, somewhere between the sardines and the blackstrap molasses that she made me take. I told you, I never knew why, but she would say, "Butchie, you take this." And I'd say, "It looks like motor oil." And she'd say, "It's good for you." And I remember that sulfur kind of aftertaste of black strap molasses, but she was convinced that it like super boosted your immune system, Jim.
You know, a lot can be said about those old wives' tales, as they say, because they learned a lot from our ancestors, and it's been good for us. I'm talking about sardines. I have to make sure that I enjoy my sardines when Faye's not there.
Yeah. Now listen, you can offend other people with the odoriferous offering of the sardines. I quickly, after I eat them, wash out the sardine can, and I put the sardine can, I've got a little ritual, in a bag and wrap up the bag and put it right at the bottom of the trash can. Yeah, because it really, there's some people that don't really appreciate it as much as we do.
I love it.
And when I lived in Minnesota, they had something called lutefisk.
Not familiar with that.
Okay, Jim, I love things that you're not familiar with. Maybe I can try to get some. It's like a cold fish, like a herring, and it's got this greasy gelatin that it sits in. And the Swedes and Norwegians absolutely love it. And, of course, the name Maltby is English. You know, I came from near Sheffield, England. My family did a long time ago. But my grandmother came from, with my great-grandparents from Sweden, went through Ellis Island, and their name was Sandquist. And so Swedes and Norwegians love, among other things, lutefisk. It's like a jelly, a fish jello. A fish kind of jello, salty and slimy, with that herring in there, and they just love it. Put a little bit of sour cream with that, and you're good to go.
Well, since we're on menus like that, before we close, are you a lover of caviar?
You know, I have had caviar, and I do like caviar. I was in Russia one time when they caught a sturgeon, and it was filled with eggs, and the guy held it up and squeezed the fish. It came out of its orifice, all the eggs came out of its orifice right there, and he had us put it on crackers and eat it right at the edge of the water.
Oh, that's fresh.
Yeah, that was real. I mean, he literally like massaged the fish. The caviar came out, went into a receptacle, and we had it right there.
I've never had caviar.
You haven't?
Never had it.
Okay, well maybe we can have a sampling of some things at some point.
But we make our trips sometime.
We're going to do that. Listen, a great America Tours. We're getting a hold of that. Be praying about that. If it's something you'd have of interest, let us know. Now, listen, we're going to end today by honoring. I'm loving this incredible book, Legendary Locals of Rutherford County. Here's what I want to read about today. Dr. Benjamin Earl Washburn.
Sure.
A native of Rutherford County, Dr. Washburn, December 29th, 1885 to December 28th, 1979, spent his childhood on the Cleghorn Plantation, which totaled 2,000 acres on Cox Road near Rolfton. Washburn graduated from the University of North Carolina and the University of Virginia Medical School. He's a UVA grad. I didn't know that. That's where I went to graduate school. With his wife, Zella, Benjamin began his medical practice in the South Mountains, Rutherford County in 1913, which he wrote about in A Country Doctor in the South Mountains. Dr. Washburn joined the Rockefeller Sanitary Commission in its campaigns against hookworm disease. He organized the Bureau of County Health Work of the North Carolina State Board of Health and became Nash County Health Officer, one of the first such officers in the United States. Became an officer of the International Health Division of the Rockefeller Foundation from 1915 to 1939, served in Trinidad, Jamaica, the West Indies, Central America. 2 years in England, he worked as a health editor of the Progressive Farmer and as district health officer during World War II. Served as a member of the Governor's Committee on Hospitals and Medical Care, as a director of the North Carolina Good Health Association, and as the first physician to serve on the board of Rutherford County Hospital. In addition to his findings on sickle cell anemia, Washburn wrote Rutherford County and its hospital, and To Everything a Season before his 1979 death. His work remains historical references to this day. We are surrounded, like it says in Hebrews, by a cloud of witnesses. Our county is so full and replete and rich with the stories and the sacrifices of people. And you know what, Jim? You're one of them. You're one of them, and it's our time. It's our time. We don't just want to read about the history of people. We want to answer the call that God has for us right here and right now. And call number one needs to be get out and vote. Get out and vote. Exercise your right to vote. We're in early voting. November 8th, of course, is Election Day. And to God be the glory. This country is made great as all of us make choices that reflect His goodness, His grace, and His love.
Enjoyed it. God bless America.
God bless America.
Thank you for joining us for My Great America with Jim and Butch. Join us each Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9:05 for this enlightening program on 100.9 FM and 590 AM. It's My Great America with Jim and Butch.
everyone. Happy Thursday. It's going to be a beautiful one for us today with cool temperatures, but overall still pretty comfortable. We'll be in the mid to upper 60s this afternoon with mostly sunny skies. Get out and enjoy. It's going to be actually a really nice afternoon. Mostly clear and cold, though, into tonight with temperatures falling into the low to mid 40s by Friday morning. Then we'll see increasing clouds on Friday with even cooler temperatures only in the low to mid 60s heading into the weekend. I'm meteorologist Anthony Baglione in the Weather Center.
Circle B is the place to be in Rutherford County. Enjoy delicious smoked cooked barbecue plates or sandwiches, plus all the sides that you love with barbecue. All food is prepared fresh daily. Circle B is a family-owned business, so eat local and support local businesses. They also offer catering. Any event you have coming up, call on Circle B Barbecue, 828-395-2140. Hours are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, 11 till 9, and Sundays, 11 till 3. So if you just pass them, circle back.